This is Deborah Yao with Black Education TV, and I'm going to be talking about a couple of brothers here today. Many of you know both of them. Dr. Umar Johnson is one of them that I'm going to be talking about, as well as Mitchell Chance. Mitchell, he recently did a video talking about what is going on with Dr. Umar Johnson right now. Now, I'm going to tell you this up front. This is my disclaimer. Many of you are going to be offended that I'm offended by the offenses that black people do against each other. You're already going to be offended by this video, so I'm going to let you know that up front, because that is just the mindset of our people today, in which I'm going to share a very small segment from the video that Mitchell Chance did himself. I'm going to share a little bit of that to bring context to what I'm saying here, and you can view the rest of it on his page. Okay, the brother was talking some very serious, deep stuff, and he was very clearly, visibly upset by the topic that he was speaking on, and rightfully so, because there's a mindset among our people that is just very, very sickening. It's very frustrating, and it's ridiculous. It's really, really ridiculous. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and play his clip, okay, just a small segment of what he's speaking about. Then I'm going to come back and then have a few words to say as well.
What's going on, kings and queens? BF and Kruma, formerly known as Mitchell Chance, the voice of revolution. I came across something that's very disheartening. Very, 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 very disheartening. Dr. Umar put up a post, a picture of a letter that he received in the mail from the board of psychologists, and on January 8th he has to go into trial and basically is going to lose his license, because the very people that he has been fighting for have been calling and sending letters and trying to destroy what it is that this king is doing. And in a way, they have succeeded. In a way, they have succeeded. And in his post, in the caption, he says that after this last Kwanzaa tour, I'm saying goodbye to the conscious community. What's going on, Nina? For some time. And I know the backlash that I get every single damn day. Knowing that he has a larger platform than I am, he's a world renowned household name. I know he receives a whole lot more than what I do. And to think about dealing with more than what I deal with every day from my own people, and then having my license removed because of my own people, I wouldn't be upset with Dr. Umar if he just said fuck it and never wanted to do anything for black people again. I wouldn't be upset. I know some folks would call him a sellout. Some folks would say you're supposed to stick it out and you got to leave. But man, I don't know if y'all understand the magnitude of what it's like when you got to fight the people you're fighting for to fight for them. You know, these folks wanted to say, he didn't have a doctorate degree. Then he finally told them what school he went to and say, y'all go check it. And then once they figure that out, they want to go ahead and bring something else up. And this is always something else with a black person who's fighting for black people. It's always something else. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, black people are going to fight you. You talk about the necessity of our own economics. You got black folks saying, nah, we just need to integrate. You talk about having your own land and your own area so you can protect yourself, and it's, nah, we just got to join the police force. You talk about starting your own court system. It's like, nah, we got to become judges. No matter what we talk about, that's for the safety and security, and not just physical, but the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the cultural security. See, I think many of us don't realize how big of a deal it is when you don't have mental, emotional, spiritual, and cultural security. Paul says Umar is a fraud. You tell me what Umar is a fraud of. Umar has a 20-year track record, 20-plus year track record of fighting for young black boys and young black people in general, but specifically young black boys, fighting them getting put in special ed and made to feel like it's something wrong with them. Umar has a call every freaking Tuesday morning for parents who want to call to get information. I know people personally. We're talking about a brother with 6 degrees, a brother with a doctorate degree, a world-renowned speaker sought after all around the world. I know people who personally have had him come to their house to counsel their son, to counsel their child's father, to try to bring reconciliation to their family for free. Now, you show me how many frauds are going to take their time to go counsel black people for free. Show me how many frauds, and then that's not going to broadcast it because he not on his page talking about it. He not on his page talking about all the free things that he do for the black people that are a part of his call, a part of his parents. He's not on none of his radio or TV interviews telling you about all these free things. So show me a fraud who is going to take their time for free to pour into the lives of people. A fraud that has a doctorate degree and could well charge $150, $200 an hour. But he comes in the middle of the hood. In the middle of the hood to counsel young black boys and their parents. But we want to call him a fraud. And that's the problem right there. That's the problem right there. We want to crucify our folks so bad, and it's ridiculous. And then folks wonder why people just say, you know what, fuck it, man, I'm done. I ain't gonna lie. I've been close to it myself a lot of times. Like, man, folks don't want to support you. They don't want to support you. You know, you gotta dedicate your all to the movement, and God forbid you get a donation so you can survive. God forbid you sell a product. I got folks who get mad at me and call me say I'm pimping the people because I sell books. When the hell has it ever been a bad thing to be a black author? When did being a black author become you pimping the people? You just wanna peddle your books. I ain't selling no street novels. No fictional stuff to make you feel good. I'm teaching you black empowerment. I'm showing you historical stuff, psychological stuff that you never saw. But folks want to crucify every black person who's fighting for them. And now this brother is facing getting his freaking license revoked because of the people he was fighting for. Because of the people he was fighting for. Keaton Jones' mom got $60,000 in one day. Umar couldn't get that money for the school to save his life. A school for your kids, my kids. A school for our kids. But
Okay, as you've heard, this brother had a lot to say about what's going on with Dr. Umar Johnson right now. They are talking about taking away his license, something that he has earned. This brother has earned this, okay? And right now, I already know that there's going to be some, like I said before, some black people who are going to be offended by the fact that I'm offended by some of the offenses that we do and bring against each other. We as a people, we just don't understand what is happening. And so therefore, we become our own worst enemy. We do just a takedown of our own people. Now, the fact that there are so-called black people who felt the need to write in grievances to the people who issue the licenses that Brother Umar Johnson holds, the fact that our own people are the ones sending in letters is just very disheartening, but it's very typical of Negro behavior. Because there's this jealousy, this overwhelming ignorance and jealousy among our people. these are the kind of things that you can expect. And like I said, I already know some are going to be offended, but this is just a rewind to the way I used to do videos and bring videos. I've tried to tone things down a bit, but there are just some things that spark or bring certain emotions to the forefront. And that's one of those things too. Our people despise emotions. They do everything to push every emotional button you have, but then they say, "Oh, you're emotional." It's a psychological game that our people play. You can't be emotional. You can't display any symptoms of emotion in under any circumstances. I can push every button that you have. I can detonate your very spirit to break you down, but you cannot display emotion. That's our people and how they think we are supposed to behave when they do all kinds of wicked things, such as what has taken place with Brother Umar Johnson. And as you saw in this video, this brother displayed a lot of emotions because he is clearly frustrated by what has happened to Brother Umar Johnson. Our people will wipe out 1 million good things that you've done and find one small mote. Oh, Brother Umar, when I read this letter that he wrote, he didn't cross one of his T's and he didn't dot one of his I's. That's the kind of madness, and we justify it with this little sick thing that our people have going on in their minds, to where if you don't agree with every last thing that they say, then they attack you. I don't expect someone or people to agree with everything that I say. Everyone is entitled to their opinions, but the way in which you deal with how you feel about your disagreement with others is the problem. You see, there are those who call Dr. Umar Johnson a sellout, but they won't tell you what he sold out on. Just like the brother said, I'm just going to be echoing many of the things that he said because I've said these things before. I felt these things before, and I understand exactly where the brother is coming from. Your own people will create reasons why they don't want to support you and what you're doing. Umar Johnson wants to start a school, and then what happens? He wants to start a school. Then you got all these Negroes who ain't trying to do nothing for the so-called black community, but they got everything to say about this man who is at least trying to do something. And as Brother Mitchell Chance has stated, he said if Umar Johnson decided to just shut his doors and do nothing else and say nothing else in advocacy for the black community, he totally understands. Because it gets to a point where you just say, forget it. Of course, he has something else to say. He dropped the F-bomb, right? And so I'm saying forget it. You see, a lot of people are getting to the point where they're saying, forget working for the black community. I'm just going to do my thing. And then what the black community is going to give Umar Johnson in return, if he does decide to do that, they're going to say, see, he's a sellout. It's some type of warfare that we have going on against each other, fighting among each other, saluting our enemies. The nature of the so-called black mind is like our minds have been blackened as a people against one another. There's absolutely nothing to celebrate if this brother loses his license. You would believe that Umar Johnson has single-handedly gone around the world and just destroyed black communities one at a time, the way some of our people respond to certain things. Writing in letters, trying to get the man messed up. The typical Negro black mind. Let's destroy one another. And then you feel like you're actually, see, I'm helping the black community because I'm exposing this Negro. Exposing him for what? You see, a lot of our people act like they have this perfect existence, like they've never sinned, like they've never done anything wrong, but that they are the epitome of righteousness, holiness, and that they are out here pounding the pavement, doing everything they can to uplift the so-called black community. When most of them don't do nothing but sit their behinds around on Facebook all day long, wreaking havoc, making videos about stuff that they shouldn't be making videos about, running their mouth, and not trying to do anything to improve our people. Some people's whole ministry or whole goal or whole social media platform or social media profile, because some of them don't have a platform per se, but they have a profile where all they do all day long is tear somebody else down. I mean, they will pick a person. Who's the person today that I'm going to make my target? And then even if they don't call your name, everything they say and do is about tearing somebody down. As if they've reached to the seventh heaven. As if they've moved mountains. As if they've saved the world. Doing nothing but saying a whole lot of nothing. Umar Johnson, and so many like him. Even Claude Anderson got to the point where he said, I think I'm on the wrong team. Been fighting for black people for 30 years. And I think I'm on the wrong team. These are the words of Claude Anderson. Now, you have those who say, you know what, I don't care what my people do. I'm always going to fight for so-called black people. That's the narrative now. But it does get to a point where you just throw in the towel. You say, you just want to holler and throw up both your hands and say, forget it. Now, just like the brother Mitchell Chance said, he said, I don't agree with everything that Umar Johnson does. But that is no reason to attack the man. You see, you have those who believe that if you don't teach everything the way they want it to be taught, if you don't believe how they believe, if you don't interpret how they interpret, that you are the one that's wrong. They call themselves bringing correction to you. But if you bring correction, bring it correctly. And make sure that you are correct before you bring correction. So how can you bring correction to someone when you yourself are not correct? Most people believe that bringing correction is trying to steer you towards their belief or their ideology about something. In other words, they're so full of pride that they are sure that they are correct. So they say that they're going to bring correction to you because you don't believe or teach or understand things the way that they do. 9 times out of 10, they don't direct you and say study to show yourself approved and that you should find out for yourself and research on your own. They're saying, look, I have presented this information to you, and this is all that you need to go by. This is how some people believe and think, that if they present information to you, that this is the only thing that you need to accept. And so for all of those who come against Umar Johnson and others like him and want to point out all of the faults, while you're trying to get this mote out of his eye, you got a big old beam in yours. As a matter of fact, your eyes are about to pop out of your head because of the beams that you have in them. I would venture to say that outside of the Gentile, so-called black people are the biggest hypocrites to walk this planet. And I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. I'm going to say black people here in America. Because I do see a lot more humility in other areas of the world where black people dominate. I'm not saying that there's no pride in other areas. Some people will just get that all mixed up and say that she says this. Or I'm not saying that every person in Africa is humble. But what I'm saying is I see a lot more humility in the Caribbean islands and Africa and even the UK for that matter among black people than I do here in America. So-called American black people are in a class all by themselves. And I'm one of them, so I'm not trying to be personally insulting to anyone. I'm a so-called American black person. As far as where I live, I know what my lineage is. I know that I am an Israelite by blood. But as far as so-called American black people, it's ridiculous the things that I see happening among our people, the takedown that we do against each other. It is utterly ridiculous how we choose to deal with one another and how we will take something, a very small matter, use that and blow it out of proportion just to justify attacking someone. The Most High sees that ignorant wickedness, and he will deal with every one of you accordingly. We deal so treacherously against one another. I actually have seen and heard so-called black people make excuses as to why they do not support black businesses. Now, you all have heard me speak on this topic before. There are some black businesses that are not worthy of support. So don't get me wrong on that. I realize that. That's why I say we are in a catch-22 situation where we do have so-called black businesses who are not worthy of our support. But then you have those that are worthy of our support who will not be supported by so-called black people because we love to oppress and drive offenses against each other. So even if you do deserve support, you ain't getting it from a so-called black person because they rather support this one over here. I remember when the brother Wendell Pierce opened up the grocery store down south. The excuses I heard coming out of the mouths of black people was ridiculous. Why don't you just say, look, I want to love my massa and I just don't want to support you, Negro? Why don't you just come right out and say it? That I want to support massa, I don't want to support you. This is how the mind of our people has just been so destroyed to the point where you can't even show them that they are wrong. They get offended by you being offended by the offenses that they bring. So it's, if it wasn't so, oh my goodness. You have to laugh to keep from crying at the nonsense that we see among our people. I felt this brother's emotions. Yes, his emotions coming through this video as he spoke about our people, groups of our people being responsible for writing in letters to get Dr. Umar Johnson's license revoked. Shameful. A shameful bunch of people. Our people will get one bit of information about you. Even if it's slightly true, it'll be something so insignificant as to all of the efforts and all of the good that you have done. Hey, man, did you know that Umar Johnson ran a red light? Man, he ran a red light. Can you believe it? And he calls himself a leader? He calls himself a so-called leader among black people? He ran a red light, man. That is shameful. That's how our people are. They will take something that small and insignificant, blow it out of proportion, and they add enough fluff to the conversation about that small offense to where you'll have other people joining into that mess, spreading the same garbage, and people not even really knowing what the real issue is. But if they were to take a step back and say, man, so y'all complaining about him running a red light? And of course, I'm using that as an example. I'm just saying that our people love drama so much they flock to it like dogs in heat. To the point where it makes other black people, and like the one brother said, like he said, when someone decides they don't want to play the stupid black game anymore and they just go on off into their own world, oh, look at the sellout. Look at the sellout. And the brother talks about how he sells T-shirts, or he sells books. Maybe T-shirts too. I don't remember if he said T-shirts, but anything that he sells that is directed to the black community. But we've experienced this before too, where our own people, you have a product and you're selling your product, your own people, as this brother stated, start calling him oh, you pimping the people, because he has a product to sell to our people. Oh, he's pimping the people. But these same Negroes will go and spend thousands of dollars at a white establishment to buy Christmas gifts for their kids every year. Now, those are the people that's really pimping you. But you sell a book, the book is $9.99, $19.99, $29.99. Oh, you're pimping the people, though. You sell a T-shirt, you're pimping the people. You sell a cake, you're pimping the people. You open a black restaurant, you pimping the people. But you will take yourself over to Denny's or Lenny's or Frenny's or any other restaurant that's non-black owned. Take your whole family there, spend $200 or $300, and you won't say a word. What kind of idiocy is that? See, this is one of the reasons why the generational curses just keep spinning out of control and they get worse and worse, because our people continue to go down the tube. And no, I am not talking about every last one of us. It's a shame that you have to make that reference and say that, because someone will say, oh, she's attacking her own people. She's attacking the black community. Umar's attacking the black community. Mitchell Chance is attacking the black community. Claude Anderson. Anybody who says anything against what our people are doing is considered an attack. When all we're saying is, look, we have got to do better, family. We have got to do better. We have got to stop tearing one another down. We've got to stop taking someone else's sins. Because there are things that Umar Johnson have done, but does that discount the good that this man has done as it relates to the black community? That's the problem we're having. We dip into people's personal lives and we'll use something that they have done. Like I used the example of running a red light. Oh, he got points on his driver's record for running a red light. And you will take that and blow it out of proportion. Shameful people. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. Most of us aren't, though. Most of our people are not ashamed. They'll do something dirty and underhanded. As a matter of fact, some of those who sent in those letters, they probably feel justified. And they probably come up with a million reasons why sending in that letter to get his license revoked was a good idea. They'll come up with many reasons, and they'll want you to support them in their reasons. And you ask them, well, what is the problem? Why should his license be revoked? Well, it's just something about that Negro I just don't like. Well, what is it? What is it? Well, I think he's a fraud, like the brother said. Okay, what did he do that makes him a fraud? Well, I don't know. It's just something about that Negro that I just don't think he should be doing what he's doing. All I can say is with our people, it goes from bad to worse, because this is the kind of mindset, the kind of ignorance that just circulates throughout the so-called black community. We get so angry at one another for coming against this kind of foolishness. And you sit up and you ride around on your high horse and you yourself do nothing. You do absolutely nothing. If we don't rebuke our own ways, who will? Everybody else is promoting this stuff. This is why they've taken over our music. They like to fund anything that is going to keep us at a certain level. Any one of us, should I say, who speaks out against the foolishness in the so-called black community, you're now the enemy. You're now the sellout. You're now the one who's kicking someone while they're down. When all we're saying is, family, we've got to do better. Truth be told, even for those of you who don't know who we are as a people, the only way that we're going to find ourselves out of the situation that we're in is if we turn back to the Most High. And yes, I see the comments from those of you who are what you call not religious, who says you enjoy listening to me speak if I keep the religious part out of it. Well, see, the problem is I'm not religious. I believe the truth that we as a people have erred greatly. And we're trying to look for all these solutions in all these other places. But the only solution that we have is to repent with our whole heart and to turn from our own wicked ways. We're so busy trying to get everybody else and trying to get the other nations to do and treat us right. That's not your move to make. The scripture says that if a man's ways be found righteous before the Most High, even his enemies will be at peace with him. You can't make people do anything. Let your life testify for itself. You see. But again, this was about Brother Umar Johnson and Brother Mitchell Mitchell Chance. That's the name of his Facebook page. BFNR Rumah Speaks, and then at Mitchell Chance Speaks. That's on Facebook. But these two brothers doing a lot of things in the so-called black community to help our people. And that includes bringing and speaking truth. And for those who get offended by it, if the shoe don't fit, then don't worry about it. If it's not talking about you, don't get upset. But if the shoe fits, wear it and make improvements. That's what it's all about. You don't complain about somebody telling you the truth about what's happening. Make improvements. And as long as we have this mindset of I'm gonna take that Negro down, we all gonna stay on the bottom. Collectively as a whole, we'll stay on the bottom because we don't even need other people to kick us anymore. Because we're doing a great job of it ourselves, kicking each other, displacing each other, tearing each other down. Seemed like one of the favorite things for so-called black people to do. And with that, I'm going to say shalom, family.